I should do the entire review like this, because this pretty much sums up WrestleMania VII.
You're watching So Awkward. This is Freddy Krueger saying hi.
March 24th, 1991 at the LA Sports Arena. Not the best WrestleMania. Not the worst, but probably among the worst. America the Beautiful, sung by Willie Nelson. Interesting choice, because this is the first WrestleMania in Los Angeles where you think they'd have a huge pool of celebrity talent, and they chose Willie Nelson. He did a really great job, and I respect their choice, but you think they would have chosen somebody a little more Hollywood. But I'm glad they didn't, because I love Willie Nelson. This is the first WrestleMania, I think, with no Jesse the Body Ventura at all. Doesn't even make an appearance. The commentary is mostly Gorilla Monsoon with Bobby the Brain Heenan. Not a great card, so let's just breathe through this card as quickly as possible. We open with Haku and the Barbarian versus the Rockers. Not a great match, but the Rockers finally won a match at WrestleMania. So go Rockers. Next up is Dino Bravo versus the Texas Tornado, Kerry Von Erich. Kerry Von Erich finally makes a WrestleMania appearance. Then we have the Warlord versus British Bulldog. I wrote down in my notes, good fun. Then the tag titles are on the line. The champions, the Hart Foundation, versus the Nasty Boys. I wrote down in my notes, good fun. A little repetitive. That's my review for my notes. Slightly repetitive. Next up is one of the weirdest matches in the history of wrestling. It's Jake the Snake Roberts versus the model Rick Martel in a blindfold match. There was a nice little video package that set the scene. The model used to come to the ring with an atomizer that he would spray called Arrogance. He sprayed it in the face of Damien the Snake and Jake the Snake Roberts himself, which made him go blind for like a week or a couple weeks. So they had this match where the stipulation was they were both not even blindfolded, they had hoods over their heads. They had black hoods over their heads, so they looked a little bit like this. And they would walk around the match trying to find each other, which is as ridiculous as it sounds. And it's become one of the most mocked, ridiculed matches of all time. Whenever there's, a top 10 list of the dumbest or worst gimmicks of all time, the blindfold match from WrestleMania VII is always on the list. But to give it credit, the crowd was into it. Jake the Snake would point, and then when he was pointing towards Rick Martel, the crowd would go nuts, and when he wasn't, they would say no. So he would keep moving his finger around. So the crowd loved it. But watching it, with like a 30-year perspective, weird. Weird and not that fun and lame and boring. It was mostly just two guys walking around the ring like this, and then one would grab the other one, and the other one would run away, and then finally Jake the Snake grabbed him and put him in the DDT and then pinned him. Although even when we pinned him, he did put him in the DDT, and then he couldn't find him at first, and then the crowd had to tell him where to go. I mean, the match was memorable, if only to make fun of it, so I'll give it credit for that. But all in all, awful. Thumbs down. Next up is a historically monumental match. Jimmy the Superfly Snuka versus The Undertaker. The Undertaker makes his WrestleMania debut right here in WrestleMania VII. Just a couple months ago, we saw WrestleMania 32 featuring The Undertaker. And for probably maybe a few months, if we review every WrestleMania every Wednesday, Undertaker's the only guy we're going to be talking about consecutively until I'm done. Spoiler warning, for the next 20, 21 or so weeks, The Undertaker is going to dominate every match he's a part of. This is a pretty solid match. It's a lot of fun. At this point, Jimmy Snuka was a legend. kind of towards the end of his career, but still a legend. He still looked great, and this was a really fun match. But Undertaker dominates. He gets his first win. His first of, I believe, is it 20 or 21 wins? I can't remember. We'll keep a count of his wins, of the streak, as it's called, because it goes on for 2 decades. Unparalleled in the history of sports entertainment. The streak is the greatest accomplishment in the history of sports, according to the WWF. We're going to be talking about The Undertaker every Wednesday for the next few Wednesdays. Then we have the career-ending match between Macho Man Randy Savage and The Ultimate Warrior. This one's pretty good. This one, in fact, is fantastic. One of the best matches so far in WrestleMania Wednesday. I have said some disparaging things about the Ultimate Warrior as a worker, as an athlete, as a performer. But when it comes to WrestleMania, his matches are unparalleled. Anyway, really 2 icons from my childhood, 2 icons from the industry, having a phenomenal match. One of the greatest matches in WrestleMania history. This one will be on my top 10 for sure. I loved it. Then we have Demolition versus a couple of Japanese gentlemen whose names I don't remember and I can't read my handwriting. Up next is the Intercontinental title match. Big Boss Man versus the champion, Mr. Perfect. 2 of my all-time favorites. And this match was great. Big Boss Man won by disqualification because there were some shenanigans. But as we all know, a disqualification does not earn you the title. So, Mr. Perfect, Kurt Hennig, retains the title. Then we have Greg the Hammer Valentine, who, if you may remember, has been a part of every WrestleMania so far, versus Earthquake. Fun match. I wrote down in my notes, you don't see big fat guys anymore. You don't see big fat guys anymore. You really don't. If you were to watch Raw this week, everybody's super handsome. All the women are beautiful. Everybody's in shape. You don't see big fat guys anymore. And it's a shame because big fat guys are great. Like Earthquake, amazing. You gotta have a couple of big fat guys. I guess Kevin Owens, although he's not a big fat guy, he's just a fat guy. But he's not like Earthquake. He's not a monster. I miss guys like Earthquake because he was great. Yokozuna, King Kong Bundy, get some big fat guys. Ratings are down, buy rates are down, the WWE Network is losing subscribers, and I think it's because they need big fat guys. I'm not saying they need all big fat guys, but like one or two big fat guys would really put this thing over the top. Anyway, I've made my point. Next up is Power and Glory versus Legion of Doom. This one was okay. I don't remember who Power and Glory was. Up next we had a match for the $1 million title. Ted DiBiase versus Virgil. Not a great match, but I remember just the build-up to this match. This was years in the making. Because we had the introduction of $1 Million Man. I don't even... How long have we been talking about him on WrestleMania Wednesday? I don't know. The past 4 weeks? 5 weeks? So we're talking about like 4 or 5 years of $1 Million Man just treating Virgil, his manservant, like crap. So finally, Virgil turned and said, I'm not going to take it anymore. And then he attacked him, and then they have their first big match here at WrestleMania VII. And I remember being so excited as a kid, and then being so underwhelmed. Because Virgil, while a fine wrestler, he just wasn't a great wrestler. And his promos, which was like his interviews and where he would talk to the camera and explain his motivations, getting people to watch the match, he was awful. One of the worst. And I remember even as a kid just thinking, oh, this guy's really bad. He probably shouldn't be on camera. But the match was okay because Ted DiBiase is always good, and he he did everything he could to carry the match. But, Next up is Tito Santana, who has also been in every WrestleMania, versus the Mountie. I wrote in my notes, lame. I love Tito. Not a great match. Tito deserves better. And that brings us to the main event, which is the champion, Sergeant Slaughter, versus Hulk Hogan. Whoa, pretty good match. Possibly even a great match, as far as the Hogan matches go. I remember this feud. Sergeant Slaughter, one of the all-time greats, icon, Hall of Famer. I've met him. He put me in the Cobra Clutch. It was one of the highlights of my life.
Perfect. Gotcha.
At this point, he was arguably the most hated heel in the history of professional wrestling. Like, legit hate. He, of course, was always a jingoistic pro-American soldier. But at some point, he disavowed America and aligned himself with Saddam Hussein and the Iraqis, which is ridiculous. He was the most hated character since, I guess, the Iron Sheik. Anyway, at one point he went out. I think the WWF wanted him to burn the American flag, and he said, "No, I'll burn Hogan's shirt," which somehow is worse. Somehow that's even more anti-American. So just leading up to this feud was epic. And the match was pretty good. Both of these guys were maybe, I'm not going to say past their prime, but they were on the cusp of being past their prime. It was a really good match with two icon veterans, but, Hogan's limited. All his matches are the same, but that's okay because they're all great. And this one was really good. But overall, WrestleMania VII kind of sucked. Better than WrestleMania 2, I still think that's the worst. WrestleMania 2 and WrestleMania 5 and WrestleMania 7, these are the bottom of the barrel. But there were enough really good matches that I would put it a thumb in the middle. I'm not going to give it a thumbs down. Oh, what the hell, I'll give it a thumbs down. Skip it. Just hopefully the WrestleMania 8's better. I don't know. We'll find out. I don't know if I've ever actually seen WrestleMania 8. I don't remember it. Anyway, see you next Wednesday, everybody. God damn it! You don't know how long it takes me to set up this fucking shelf.